If you're over 60, there's one everyday movement that might look perfectly harmless, but could quietly raise your risk of a stroke overnight. No pain, no warning, no second chance. You could go to bed feeling fine and wake up unable to speak, unable to move your arm, or unable to recognize the people you love most. Now, I don't say that to frighten you. I say it because for over 30 years, I've sat at the bedside of men and women who thought they were doing everything right. They ate their vegetables. They stayed active. They even followed the exercise programs that were marketed as safe for seniors. And yet they found themselves in a hospital bed, asking the same heartbreaking question: how did this happen to me? Here's the truth no one talks about. Some of the very exercises you've been told are good for you can actually overload aging blood vessels, spike blood pressure, or set up the perfect conditions for a clot to form while you sleep. And when that clot travels to the brain, it's game over. Not just for your independence, but for your ability to live life on your own terms. Let me pause and tell you something straight from the heart. The point of this video isn't to scare you into giving up movement. In fact, the opposite is true. Movement is your medicine. But if you don't know the right way to move at this stage of life, you might be unknowingly creating risks you never faced at 40 or 50. Aging changes the rules, and pretending it doesn't can cost you dearly. I'll put it this way. Imagine driving the same car for decades. At 20 years old, it handled every bump in the road with ease. At 40 years, it still runs, but the suspension isn't quite the same. By 60 years, every sharp turn, every pothole, every sudden break has a different effect. Your body is the same, strong, capable, but different. And the way you move now must match the body you actually have, not the one you used to have. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through 9 common exercises and movements that could be putting your brain at risk, even if you feel strong, even if you've done them your whole life. And for each one, I'll show you what to do instead, so you can stay flexible, independent, and sharp, without accidentally sabotaging the very brain that gives you freedom. So stay with me, because what you're about to hear could be the most important health message you'll listen to this year. It might even save your life or the life of someone you love. And before we dive in, let me ask you a small favor. If you care about protecting your brain and your independence, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the bell. That way, you'll never miss another tip designed just for you. And if you're already finding this message valuable, type the number 1 in the comments below. That tells me you're here, you're listening, and you care. Because knowledge, my friend, is power. And today, we're taking your power back. Now, let's begin with the first exercise, one that looks harmless, but has silently sent countless seniors into the ER. Toe touches and forward bends. The everyday movements that backfire. Edward's story. Let's start with a movement you've probably done thousands of times without thinking. Touching your toes. Sounds harmless, right? Maybe it's part of your morning stretch. Maybe you do it before a walk. Or maybe it's something as ordinary as bending forward to pick up a laundry basket, or reaching for that sock that slipped under the bed. For decades, these small motions seemed not only safe, but healthy. But here's the twist. After age 60, what feels like a simple stretch can quietly tip your brain toward a stroke. Now, why does this happen? When you bend forward quickly, your blood shifts, rushing away from your head toward your chest and legs. In a younger body, your blood vessels react instantly, tightening and sending blood right back to your brain. But as we age, those sensors, called baroreceptors, lose their sensitivity. They don't bounce back the way they used to. That means your brain may go without enough oxygen for a few crucial seconds. Sometimes you feel it as a wave of dizziness. Other times you feel nothing at all. But inside, the blood slows, circulation stutters, and in some cases, a clot begins to form. And when that clot travels to the wrong spot in your brain, everything can change in a heartbeat. Let me introduce you to one of my patients, a man I will never forget, Mr. Edward Millstone. Edward was 74, a retired history teacher, sharp as ever, and proud of keeping his body limber. Every morning, right after getting out of bed, he'd reach down and touch his toes 5 or 6 times. It made him feel young, he said, like the boy who used to run laps on the school field. But one morning, after his usual stretch, Edward felt just a little lightheaded. He brushed it off. A few hours later, while gardening, he collapsed in his backyard. He was conscious, but his right arm and leg wouldn't move. At the hospital, the scans revealed a small ischemic stroke. The clot had formed that morning during his routine toe touchers, when his blood pressure dipped and his sluggish circulation let a clot take root. Edward survived, but his right hand never fully recovered. He told me later, with tears in his eyes, "I thought stretching was saving me. But it nearly ended me." And that's the lesson here. It's not about stopping movement. It's about moving wisely. At 40, a forward bend may have been harmless. At 70, it can become dangerous, especially if you're on blood pressure medication or you wake up dehydrated, as so many seniors do. So here's what I want you to take away. If you must bend forward, do it slowly. Always rise with support. Breathe deeply. Better yet, sit in a chair to put on your socks or shoes instead of bending from a standing position. And never ignore dizziness. That is not just aging. That's your brain whispering a warning. Because the truth is this, the most dangerous stroke isn't the one that comes with a bang. It's the one that builds silently from a routine motion you've done for years, until one day your body simply can't recover. And if a simple forward bend can trigger such a dangerous chain reaction, what about the yoga poses marketed as gentle and relaxing? You might be surprised by how risky they can be. Let's talk about the hidden dangers of inverted yoga poses and the story of a grandmother whose life changed overnight. Gentle isn't always safe. Evelyn's story, inverted yoga poses. Yoga. Just hearing the word brings a sense of calm. It's often marketed as the perfect exercise for graceful aging. Gentle stretches, slow breathing, peaceful music. And for many seniors, yoga feels like a safe haven in a world full of noisy, high-intensity workouts. But here's the truth most people don't hear. Not every yoga pose is safe for aging brains. There's one category of movements that can quietly raise your stroke risk, and it's hiding in plain sight. I'm talking about inverted poses, where your head dips below your heart. Think of positions like legs up the wall, downward dog, or even deep forward folds. These poses may look harmless, and in younger bodies, they often are. But past 60, when blood vessels lose their elasticity, when years of blood pressure or cholesterol leave arteries stiff and fragile, these sudden shifts in blood flow can be dangerous. But one morning, while doing a pose where her legs were lifted against the wall and her head tilted downward, Evelyn felt a sharp pain behind her eyes. She brushed it off. After all, yoga was supposed to be safe. But that night, her daughter found her collapsed beside her bed, confused and unable to speak. At the hospital, scans revealed a small hemorrhagic stroke, a bleed in the back of her brain. The culprit? A surge in pressure from that simple inverted pose. Combined with her blood pressure medication, Evelyn survived, but she didn't leave unscarred. Her vision remains blurred on one side, and she now struggles to find words in conversation. A painful change for a woman once known for her creativity and storytelling. And here's what broke my heart. Evelyn had no idea these poses carried risks for her. No one had ever told her. She believed, like so many others, that gentle yoga meant safe yoga. So what's the takeaway for you? Yoga can still be wonderful, but if you're over 60, skip the inversions. Avoid poses where your head dips below your heart. Instead, focus on seated or supported movements. Chair yoga, gentle twists, breathing exercises, all of these offer the benefits without the risks. And if you ever feel lightheaded, a pulsing sensation behind your eyes, or unusual fatigue during yoga, don't ignore it. That's your body whispering, "This isn't safe for me anymore." Remember, age doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Wisdom is knowing when to choose safety over strain. And if yoga poses that seem gentle can cause such harm, what about movements that feel powerful? Coming up next, we'll look at why something as simple as lifting a grocery bag can send blood pressure soaring. And the story of a man who learned this lesson the hard way. Remember, age doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Wisdom is knowing when to choose safety over strain. And if yoga poses that seem gentle can cause such harm, what about movements that feel powerful? Coming up next, we'll look at why something as simple as lifting a grocery bag can send blood pressure soaring. And the story of a man who learned this lesson the hard way. Strength gone wrong. George's story, heavy lifting and holding breath. There's something deeply human about strength. Carrying your own groceries, moving a box of books, lifting your grandchild into your arms. These aren't just chores. They're proof that you're still capable, still independent, still you. But here's the reality many seniors aren't told. Lifting, even something as ordinary as a grocery bag, can quietly send your blood pressure skyrocketing in seconds. And it's not the weight itself that's the problem. It's what happens inside your body when you strain. You see, without even realizing it, most of us hold our breath when we lift something heavy. It's a natural reflex. Doctors call it the Valsalva maneuver. And while it might give you a momentary feeling of strength, here's the hidden danger. Holding your breath traps air in your chest, squeezes your blood vessels, and sends blood pressure soaring like a rocket. In an older body, where arteries may already be stiffened by years of wear and tear, that surge can dislodge a clot or even crack a vessel wall, and the result can be catastrophic. Let me tell you about Mr. George Pickett. George was 82, a retired firefighter from Ohio, strong and proud. Even in his 80s, he loved helping his wife unload the car. One afternoon, he lifted a box of canned goods. Nothing unusual, just part of his normal routine. But this time, as he strained and held his breath, his blood pressure spiked. Mid-lift, he froze, clutched his head, and collapsed. At the hospital, scans revealed a clot lodged in the middle cerebral artery, one of the brain's most vital highways. That single moment of pressure had shaken loose plaque that had been silently building for years. In seconds, George went from fiercely independent to fighting for his ability to speak and walk. George survived, but not without consequences. Today he uses a walker. His mind is sharp, but his speech is slow and labored. And he told me once with a heavy sigh, "Doc, I thought lifting kept me strong. I didn't know it could take everything from me." This is the quiet danger no one talks about. We tell older adults to stay active, to keep moving, to hold on to their strength, but we forget to say how to do it safely. Because at this stage of life, the little details matter. How you breathe, how fast you lift, whether you ask for help or insist on doing it alone. So here's your takeaway. Never hold your breath when you lift. Inhale before, exhale as you rise. Choose smaller loads whenever possible. Use carts, tools, or leverage. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Protecting your independence means knowing when caution is the smarter kind of strength. Because here's the truth. Stroke doesn't always feel like pain. Sometimes it feels like nothing at all, until the damage has already stolen your tomorrow. Now, if lifting something simple like a grocery bag can trigger a stroke, what about the movements we do dozens of times a day without thinking, like standing up from a chair? In the next section, you'll see how even that everyday motion can quietly rob your brain of oxygen. The sneaky everyday risks, Carol and Harold. Sometimes the most dangerous risks aren't the ones we prepare for. They're the ones hiding in plain sight. The movement we make dozens of times a day, the routines that feel so ordinary we never give them a second thought. Take something as simple as standing up from a chair. We do it after reading the newspaper, finishing a meal, or answering the phone. But after 60, rising too quickly can be like flipping a switch that robs your brain of oxygen in seconds. Here's why. The moment you stand, gravity pulls blood down toward your legs. In a younger body, your arteries respond instantly, tightening and pushing blood back to the brain. But in older adults, those reflexes slow down. If you add in high blood pressure, diabetes, medications like beta blockers, or even mild dehydration, your brain may not get enough blood fast enough. For some, it feels like dizziness. For others, nothing at all. But behind the scenes, a clot can quietly form. And that's how a stroke begins. I'll never forget Mrs. Carol Jensen, 79 years old, a retired school principal. Determined to stay strong, she practiced sit-to-stand drills from her kitchen chair, just as her therapist had encouraged. One morning, after a quick round of standing up and sitting down, she rose a little too fast. She told her husband, "I feel strange," and seconds later, her right side went weak. At the hospital, scans revealed a clot in her middle cerebral artery. A stroke triggered by that simple movement. Carol survived, but her speech and memory were never the same. She told me later, "I thought I was practicing independence. I didn't know I was putting myself at risk." The lesson: independence isn't about rushing. It's about wisdom. Always rise slowly. Use the arms of the chair if you need to, and pause for a moment before moving. If you feel dizzy after standing, don't ignore it. That's your brain sending you a quiet warning. Now, if something as routine as standing can trigger a stroke, what about walking? The most recommended exercise for seniors. Walking can be a wonderful habit, but under the wrong conditions, it can become dangerous. That's exactly what happened to Mr. Harold Dunn, 84, a retired postal worker. Harold loved his daily walks. It was his ritual, his pride. But one hot, humid July afternoon, he walked just like always, not realizing his body was dehydrated. That night, he woke up confused, unable to move his right arm. At the hospital, we discovered he had suffered a stroke. His blood had thickened, circulation had slowed, and a clot had formed quietly while he slept. Here's the hidden truth. As we age, our thirst reflex dulls. You may not feel thirsty until it's too late. Combine that with blood pressure medications or water pills, and your body struggles to keep fluid balance. The result? Blood that's sticky, sluggish, and more likely to clot. So here's your takeaway. Never walk in peak heat or high humidity. Drink water before and after your walk. Add a pinch of salt or sip coconut water to replace electrolytes. And if you ever feel dry-mouthed, unusually tired, or dizzy, stop. That's not just aging. That's your body begging you to protect your brain. Because here's the truth. Stroke doesn't always come from bad habits. Sometimes it comes from good intentions, standing up too fast, or walking in the summer heat without enough water. But once you know these risks, you can outsmart them, and that's what keeps you independent. Now, if everyday motions like standing or walking can trigger danger, what about something even gentler, like stretching your neck? In the next section, I'll reveal how one common stretch can tear open the very arteries feeding your brain. The hidden danger in safe stretching. Dennis plus Donald plus Eileen. We've been told for decades, stretching keeps you limber, flexible, and young. And in many ways, that's true. But here's the twist no one warns you about. Some of the simplest stretches, the ones that feel the most harmless, can quietly put you at risk for a stroke. Take something as innocent as a neck circle. For younger adults, rolling the head around feels like loosening tension. But for older adults, the arteries that snake through your neck, called the vertebral arteries, become less elastic with age. A forceful neck roll can stretch them like a garden hose that's been left in the sun too long. Brittle, fragile, ready to crack. And if they tear, your body responds by forming a clot. That clot has a direct highway to your brainstem. That's exactly what happened to Mr. Dennis Lyle, 72, a retired school band director. Every morning, Dennis rolled his neck in gentle circles after brushing his teeth. One morning, halfway through, he felt a sharp pain behind his ear. Moments later, he collapsed in his hallway. By the time he reached the hospital, scans revealed a tear in his vertebral artery and a stroke near his cerebellum. Dennis survived, but now he uses a wheelchair and can no longer direct his choir. A man who once filled rooms with music now struggles to walk across the room. And here's the frightening part. He thought he was doing the right thing. Now let's look at the other extreme, high-intensity interval training, or HIIT. It's become trendy, short bursts of exercise, marketed as a miracle for seniors who don't have time. But here's the hidden danger. Those bursts spike blood pressure and heart rate in seconds. Younger bodies can handle that. Aging vessels, already stiff or weakened by plaque, cannot. Mr. Donald Whitaker, 74, a retired steelworker, learned this the hard way. His daughter gave him a DVD of energizing HIIT moves for seniors. He gave it his all. Step touches, quick squats, even modified burpees. It felt intense, but doable. Until one morning, it wasn't. Minutes after finishing, Donald collapsed in his kitchen. A clot had broken loose from his carotid artery during a pressure spike. He survived, but his speech and memory will never be the same. And then there's the danger of timing. Many seniors begin their day with stretching before warming up, not realizing cold muscles and constricted blood vessels are like frozen rubber bands. Stretching them too hard, too soon, shocks the vascular system. Mrs. Eileen Granger, 78, followed an online gentle senior stretch routine before her daily walk. She held long bends and stretches before her body had warmed. Halfway through her walk, she collapsed with a stroke. Her mistake wasn't stretching, it was stretching too soon, before circulation had caught up. So what do these stories teach us? It's not that stretching or movement is bad, it's that uninformed movement is risky. Here's your takeaway. Stop doing full neck circles. Instead, turn your head gently side to side. Skip HIIT. Choose steady, rhythmic movement like walking, water aerobics, or Tai Chi. And never stretch before warming up. Take a 5 to 10 minute walk first. Then stretch. Remember, you're not fragile, you're wise. And wisdom means moving in ways that protect your brain. But if gentle stretching and safe routines can sometimes go wrong, what about balance training? The very exercise designed to prevent falls. Up next, we'll uncover how a single slip during balance practice can set off what I call the fall stroke loop. Balance without breaking. Walter Story unsupported balance training. Of all the exercises seniors are encouraged to do, balance training often feels like the safest. After all, what could be more important than preventing falls? You've probably heard it. Stand on one leg for 30 seconds a day. Practice walking heel to toe. These routines are marketed as simple, powerful ways to protect independence. And that's true, but only when they're done safely. What most people don't realize is that unsupported balance exercises can actually increase your risk, not reduce it. Here's why. As we age, the systems that keep us steady, our inner ear, vision, muscles and joints, don't work quite like they used to. One small slip on a rug, one sudden loss of footing, and down you go. But the danger doesn't end with the fall. That's only the beginning. When an older adult falls, even without a major injury, the body reacts with stress. Blood pressure rises, inflammation spikes, and clots begin to form as part of the healing process. And here's the hidden danger. If one of those clots travels, it can lodge in the brain. That's what I call the fall-stroke loop. A fall triggers clotting. The clot triggers a stroke. Sometimes within hours, sometimes overnight. Let me share the story of Mr. Walter Harris, 81, a retired Navy veteran. Walter was proud, active, and lived alone. He found a video online that encouraged standing on one leg for 30 seconds to improve balance. One morning he tried it. No chair, no wall, just him in the middle of his living room. His foot slipped on a rug. He toppled sideways, bumped his shoulder, and lightly hit his head on the table. It wasn't even that bad, he later told me. Just a bruise and some embarrassment. But that night, Walter woke up confused. His right arm was numb and his speech was slurred. At the ER, scans revealed a clot in his middle cerebral artery, the classic stroke we see after trauma. The fall hadn't broken bones, but it had set off a chain reaction inside his body. The clot formed silently, then traveled to his brain while he slept. Walter survived, but his independence was never the same. He needed help dressing, and speech therapy became part of his weekly routine. And he told me once with regret, if I just held onto a chair, I wouldn't be here. That's the heartbreaking part. His stroke wasn't caused by unhealthy living. It was caused by trying to do the right thing, but without enough support. So here's your takeaway. Balance training is powerful, but only when it's anchored in safety. Always practice near a sturdy chair, railing, or wall. Wear shoes with traction, not socks on slippery floors. And if you want to challenge your balance, start small. Heel-to-toe walking next to a wall, or gentle seated core work. Remember, the goal isn't to prove you can do it alone. The goal is to protect your independence. Using support isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Because here's the truth. One fall can change everything. But one smart choice, choosing safety over risk, can keep you steady, strong, and independent for years to come. And now that we've walked through these 9 hidden dangers, you may be wondering, if so many common exercises carry risk, what can I safely do? In our final reflection, I'll share the truth about movement, aging, and how to protect your brain while staying strong, active, and free. Thanks for watching this video.